Alright, so again, we're all set. Hands washed, counter sanitized. Tray is ready as the sous chef to get my ingredients. So we're going to get started. First on the list is a cup and a half of flour. Okay, so a cup and a half of flour. Dry measuring cups. I'm going to put the flour right in my mixing bowl. I'm going to scoop the flour out of here or spoon it out so it's overflowing or heaping. Then I'm going to use the flat part of the knife with the knife up and down like this to level it off. And then I need a half a cup. Again, spoon it into the cup so it's light and fluffy. You guys, quiet down please. There is the half cup. Alright, next on my list is 1 teaspoon of baking powder. Teaspoon is the smaller one, tablespoon is the bigger one. So small teaspoon, and I'm going to get a nice heaping spoonful. Again, heaping means it's overflowing, and level that off. And that goes in its own cup. Rearrange this a little bit. There we go. Next up is my baking soda. I'm just going to scoop this out over here. Same thing. Want a nice heaping spoonful, level it off, and put it in its own cup. Alright. Next one, 3/4 of a teaspoon of garlic salt. We are all out of garlic salt. Okay, so on your sheet I want you to write 1/4 teaspoon of garlic powder. So I'm going to do 1/4 teaspoon of garlic powder. And a half a teaspoon of salt. Half a teaspoon of salt. Same thing, overflowing, level it off, and it gets its own cup. So that was 1/4 teaspoon of garlic powder and a half a teaspoon of regular salt. Next we have 6 capital T's of butter. 6 capital T of butter. That's a tablespoon. The butter that we have now comes in a big chunk, so we're going to need to measure it. 6 tablespoons is equal to 3 ounces. Unless you know that by heart, I would write that down. 6 tablespoons is equal to 3 ounces. I'm going to turn on my scale, let it zero out, then I'm going to set my cup on there and I'm going to hit the tare button to zero that out again, ladies. And then I'm going to cut off a chunk of butter. 3 ounces is almost 1/4 of the chunk. And I want it to be in smaller pieces, so I'm going to cut the big chunk into a few more pieces and put them in there until I get 3.0 over on the right side. That's 2.0, 2.7. So on the very left there's 10, which is pounds. On the right side of the display is the ounces, and you want 3.0 ounces. It does go out to a decimal point to tenths, so 3.0. And turn that off. Alright, next up, 1 egg, or nope, got milk first. 3/4 of a cup of milk. 3/4 is less than a whole, right? 3/4 of something, 4/4 would be 1, a whole. So 3 of 4, 3/4 is less than 1. Make sure when you measure with your liquid measuring cup that you are going under a cup. Okay, if you go up here, you're going to have 1 3/4 and you're going to have soup instead of biscuits. All right, so please make sure that you are measuring accurately with your liquid measuring cup. Flat level surface, I'm going to pour some milk until I get what I think is close. Then I'm going to get down to eye level and take a look. Let it stop jiggling around there. I need just a little bit more. Oops, that's probably too much. Yep, too much. Make sure you don't have too much. It will make a difference. Alright, that looks good. Again, flat surface, get down to eye level. And this can stay right in your liquid measuring cup. You don't need to dump that into another cup. Now I need that egg. That goes in its own cup. And last but not least, 1.5 cups of grated cheese. The cheese will already be grated, so you don't need a grater. We're going to use our dry measuring cups and kind of use the side of the bag to push the cheese into the cup. It's kind of a funky thing to measure, get in the cup. I'm not going to level it off. If it's over a little bit like that, that's fine. But we need 1 and then we need a half. Alright, so I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 ingredient cups or ingredients on here, and I should have 9 on my list after we broke apart the garlic salt. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I have everything I need. I want to make sure I put my measuring cups, my spoons, anything I came up here with back on my tray, and then I head back to my kitchen. Alright, while I was getting ingredients, the rest of my group was getting the kitchen ready and the rest of the equipment ready. One of those things is preheating the oven. So the head chef should get that oven to 400 degrees and make sure the rack is in the middle, which it should already be from the classes before you. Excuse me. Number 2 on there, spray a baking sheet with non-stick cooking spray and set aside. You want to very lightly spray your cooking sheet. You should not have puddles of that cooking spray on your sheet. It shouldn't be dripping down. Alright, very lightly spray, and I want you to do that over that back counter, not by your kitchens, because it gets very slippery otherwise. I'm going to do it up here over this counter just so that you guys can see how I do it and how much ends up on here. You're going to hold it about this far away, and once you hit the button, you're just going to zigzag across a few times and keep your hand moving, and then let off the button. Just like that. So there's not much on there. It's hard to see unless you kind of look sideways. No big puddles. So that's what we're looking for. Any questions? Any questions so far? All right. Let's get rolling then. Making the biscuit dough. In a large bowl, whisk together the flour, baking powder, baking soda, garlic powder, and salt. So basically all of our dry ingredients are going to go in with the flour. The soda, the powder, the salt, and the garlic. Bus tub over here to put my dirty stuff in. All right, whisk that together just so I don't have any concentrated spots of one ingredient before I start the next process. That's good. Doesn't have to be super long. Next step, add the butter to the bowl and use a pastry cutter to cut the butter into the flour mixture. You want the mixture to have very small lumps about the size of a pea. Alright, so this is my pastry cutter. And I'm going to add the butter in that I already have in chunks. Okay, not one big piece. I've got 4 or 5 chunks in there. When you do the pastry cutter, you're going to push down and just keep pushing the butter into the flour. This is called cutting in. It's the process of cutting in the fat into the flour. The fat could be lard, it could be shortening. In our case, it's butter. It could be a combination of things. Fats can be interchangeable. But I'm going to just keep pushing down. I might rock back and forth a little bit. But I'm going to just keep pushing till these bits of butter get broken up and incorporated in with the flour. You may have to take your rubber spatula and scrape that off every once in a while, because we want all that butter in the bowl. And again, just keep trying to get it incorporated and break up all those small, or all the larger chunks of butter. Just tap it against the side of the bowl, that helps. Might scrape the side of the bowl just to get everything mixed. But again, just trying to get that butter into very, very small pieces and incorporated with the flour. If you don't have a pastry cutter at home and you need to do this for a pie crust or for biscuits, you can use 2 forks and kind of simulate the same process. All right, got my egg. Gonna give it a nice crack on the counter. Put my thumbs in there to separate the shell and let it slide right into the cup. Gonna add that to the milk. Looks good, no shells. Take my whisk, I'm going to break up that egg yolk and get that whisked in here carefully without splattering this on my countertop, hopefully. Alright, so next on my recipe, it says add the egg milk mixture to the flour mixture and then add the cheese. So I'm going to add this to my mixture and I'm going to add the cheese right away. It doesn't say anything about mixing in between. So I'm going to add this, then I'm going to add my cheese. Now instead of just stirring this, I'm going to fold it in, okay? I want to be somewhat careful with that floury butter mixture that I just cut in. So I'm going to fold it. I'm going to scrape the side, go down to the bottom, and just kind of roll my wrist over to fold that in. I definitely do not want to whisk this, okay? You're done with the whisk. Whisk is for liquids or completely dry things just to get it incorporated. Once you're mixing the two together, you never want to use the whisk. You just get a big gloppy mess stuck in the middle. So kind of like we did with the pancakes, you're just going to fold this in, kind of give it a little tuck to get the liquids in there, scrape that side, and roll your wrist over. Scrape it so you can see the bottom. Make sure there's no flour stuck down there. Scrape the whole side. And give it a couple more folds. So there should be no liquidy pools around the edges and there should be no flour on the outside. Once you're there, you can stop mixing, because again, we don't want to overmix. We want these to be nice and light and fluffy, and the longer we mix, the stronger that gluten will become, and we want that stuff to be nice and light. Alright, I'm going to grab my tray, bring that in here, and my scoop. Any questions so far? So these are called drop biscuits. You could take 2 spoons and scoop out the batter and plop them on. That's kind of why they got the name drop. You just drop them onto the tray and go. Since we have scoops available to us, it's much easier to portion it out accurately and end up with the biscuits spaced out and uniform shape. So I'm going to just dive right into the middle of that batter and run it up the side of the bowl to push the batter into the scoop, kind of compacting it like we do brown sugar when we measure it, and put it on the tray just like that. Notice the consistency of the dough. It's not runny. Okay, so that's why you want to be sure that you are not getting too much milk in there and that you have the right amount of flour. It is a very moist dough or moist batter, but it is not runny, so got to find that fine line there when you're measuring. So again, compacting it in so it's a nice full scoop. They're about 1 scoop away from each other, roughly. So for you guys, since this is a split class, after this point, you're going to put your tray in the refrigerator. Okay, I know the pancake batter we left out. This stuff we want to refrigerate so that the butter stays somewhat hard. We don't want it to soften anymore. Otherwise it melts too quickly once we put it in the oven. Again, that's only for the 3rd block. So. Alright, when you go to do the dishes, please remember, last time we had a lot of people not doing the proper technique. Remember, I want you guys to scrape the bowl out. This time it's going to really matter because there's a lot of dough and stuff stuck in here. You want to scrape the bowl out, scrape it into the garbage, and then when you get to the dishwashing station, rinse everything out before you put it in the water. Okay, you want to rinse everything off before you put it in that water. Kind of like cleaning it before you sanitize it. That same concept. Alright, so getting ready to put these in the oven. The time says 12 to 14 minutes. Okay, so we're going to put this in the oven. We're going to put it in, like if this is my oven right here, I'm going to put it in like this. And I'm going to set my timer for 6 minutes. When those 6 minutes are up, I'm going to turn my tray like this and put it back in for 6 more. So basically what was in front is now in back, what was in back is in front. Does that make sense? That just helps everything cook a little bit more evenly. I'm just going to take this pastry brush a little on. I don't have to paint the whole thing. I just want to make sure I get a little bit on there. It's going to help the flavor, and if you're going to add garlic salt or any other flavorings or spices to the top, it'll help them stick. I would do it right away after you brush the butter on. All right, we're going to let these cool just a little bit because they are really good when they're warm. And then you guys can each have one.